The movie opens with a shot of someone striking a match and hurling it toward a house in the darkness. The house quickly catches fire, and the sound of people screaming echoes from within while a little girl watches in terror. In the next scene, we see a real estate lawyer, Caitlin, meeting a woman named Polly. Polly explains that she used to work as a nanny, but after the family moved away, she began struggling financially. Things got worse when her landlord suddenly raised the rent, so Caitlin promises to handle the matter with the landlord. Polly then notices that she is heavily pregnant and asks why she is working in such a condition. But Caitlin simply smiles and says she can handle it. After the meeting, Caitlin heads to her car and is talking with a colleague when she suddenly goes into labor. The scene then cuts to some time later, where we see Caitlin with her older daughter Emma and her newborn Josie. She seems stressed, and it's clear she is having a hard time juggling life with two kids. Later, the family visits a farmer's market where Caitlin unexpectedly crosses paths with Polly. They begin chatting when Emma keeps interrupting her mother and insists she wants to go home. Noticing how stressed the woman is, Polly offers to babysit sometimes if Caitlin wants to ease her responsibilities. Caitlin remembers that she has childcare experience and checks if she still has a number. Later at home, Caitlin discusses the situation with her husband Miguel, who also agrees that hiring a nanny would be a good idea. Caitlin then reaches out to a woman named Rosanna, who turns out to be a reference provided by Polly. Rosanna states that Polly is an amazing woman and was also very good with kids. The next day, Polly arrives at the house to work, after which Caitlin gives her some instructions. She then asks her not to give Josie the baby formula as it contains too much sugar. Polly immediately gets to work and starts bonding with Josie, while we see Caitlin heading upstairs and taking her antidepressant medicines. In the evening, Polly is about to leave, but the family insists that she stay for dinner. Later, when Caitlin and Emma get into an argument, Polly suggests giving her daughter some space. The stressed mother then begins venting about her parenting struggles, admitting how hard it is for her to handle Emma. Days later, Caitlin asks Miguel to take Emma to her basketball game since she has some work to do, but she says she also has an important meeting and suggests she ask Polly instead. The scene then cuts to the afternoon where Polly is seen hanging out with Josie and Emma after the basketball game. She surprises Emma with a cupcake and urges her not to tell anyone. The girl excitedly agrees, and Polly even feeds Josie some cupcake, which worries Emma a bit. Here, the nanny shares how her mom used to make the best cupcakes, but she had to leave before Polly could grow old. She then had to live somewhere else where all she had to eat was tuna straight from the can, like a cat. Polly also teaches Emma some gestures, which the little girl eagerly copies. In the evening, Caitlin is busy cooking in the kitchen. Surprisingly, while she is distracted, Polly secretly spikes the food without anyone noticing. That night, the family is joined by Caitlin's friend Stewart and his girlfriend Bethany for dinner. Polly is also there and mentions that she's thinking about moving out of LA because it's becoming too expensive, which worries Caitlin. The next morning, the entire family suffers from food poisoning, prompting them to rush to the hospital. Josie's condition is even worse, so the poor girl is admitted to the ER. Caitlin blames herself for everything and explains how she always messes up. However, Polly assures her that no matter how hard she tries, she cannot always prevent bad things from happening. A comforted Caitlin says she doesn't want Polly to leave, but the latter explains that she doesn't have any other choice. The following day, the family returns home from the hospital, and Caitlin tells her husband that she wants Polly to move in with them. But Miguel is worried about his wife and recalls how after Emma was born, she spiraled out of control. It turns out she tore apart the entire house and frantically claimed that their lives were in danger. He fears she might behave that way again, but Caitlin reassures him that she's completely fine this time. The next day, Polly finally moves in with them, and Caitlin offers her a small guest room with all the essentials. Afterward, everyone leaves the house, leaving Polly and Josie alone at home. The nanny then begins inspecting the place, during which Josie starts crying uncontrollably, but Polly doesn't pick her up. One evening, Caitlin finds an empty package of baby formula in the trash can, which enrages her. She interrupts Emma and Polly while they're playing and asks the nanny about the formula. Polly explains that she has been feeding Josie with that because she was having a hard time drinking breast milk. Caitlin reminds her of their conversation about avoiding sugar, but Polly apologizes, saying she doesn't remember. But before an angry Caitlin can say anything else, Emma tells her not to interrupt their playtime. That night, Caitlin comes home after jogging but finds Miguel hanging out and laughing with Polly and a new girl. Polly introduces the girl as a friend, Amelia, and even though Caitlin feels uncomfortable about their behavior, she doesn't say anything. Later that night, Caitlin can't sleep, so she heads to Polly's room, only to be shocked to see her passionately making love to Amelia. But when their eyes meet, Caitlin quickly walks away. The next day, Caitlin feels extremely anxious and restless, so she takes her antidepressant pill to calm herself. Later, while chopping vegetables, she calls her doctor and explains that the medication has been causing weird reactions and making her jittery. The doctor advises her to lower the dose, but in a tense moment of distraction, Caitlin accidentally slices her hand. Later, the family gathers for lunch, during which Polly and Emma share a look, after which the little girl turns to her parents. She reveals that on TV, the man and woman get married and kiss, but when she grows up, she wants to marry a woman instead. A shocked Caitlin asks if Polly taught her this, but the latter explains that Emma was just asking about different types of couples and she simply explained it to her. Miguel tries to be supportive, but Caitlin struggles to believe it could be true, which enrages Emma. She yells at her mom that she hates her and storms off to her room. Afterward, Caitlin tells Miguel that Emma is just 10 and she doesn't believe the girl could have had such feelings. She worries it's just Polly's influence since they spend hours alone together talking about God knows what. Here, Miguel calms her, suggesting that perhaps she is upset that Emma is bonding more with the nanny than with her. He urges her to let their daughter grow up instead of being controlling, and Caitlin realizes she may have overreacted. Then she suddenly begins kissing Miguel and makes him pleasure her in the same way she had seen Polly do with Amelia. Elsewhere, we see that Polly has been replacing Caitlin's antidepressant pills with something else, which is likely the cause of her weird reactions. The scene then cuts to New Year's, where the family watches the fireworks and has a lot of fun. Later at home, Caitlin and Polly are in the kitchen when suddenly Emma screams and Caitlin discovers that Emma has ignited fireworks inside her room. The frustrated woman demands to know who gave her the crackers and it turns out to be none other than Polly. The nanny apologizes, saying she didn't know Emma would set them off in her room, but Caitlin believes she did it deliberately. Having had enough, she angrily kicks Polly out of the house, even though Emma pleads that it's not the nanny's fault. That night, Caitlin discusses the situation with the husband, who defends Polly and says that what happened was just a mistake. Instead, he expresses concern that Caitlin's mental state is unstable again and says he can't help her if she is not willing to accept her mistakes. After a brief moment of reflection, Caitlin realizes he is right and asks him if he knows where Polly went. Later, we see Polly at a motel, visibly frustrated and banging her head against the wall. Caitlin soon arrives to meet her and apologizes for her outburst, explaining that she had some issues in the past. The next morning, Caitlin shares everything with Stewart, who reassures that she isn't crazy. He is also suspicious of the new nanny, so he offers to investigate her background. Later, Polly arrives at her room and is shocked to find Stewart there. He claims he wanted to check on the renovations, but she firmly tells him that it's her private space and it's not appropriate. Stewart apologizes and leaves, but when he returns home, it's revealed that he had gone through Polly's trash. He is collecting items like a used tampon and a soda can, so he uses them to conduct an at home DNA test. Meanwhile, an anxious Caitlin calls Rosanna multiple times, but this time no one answers. She then searches the number on Google, which leads her to the address of a recreation center. Caitlin wastes no time heading there and finally meets Rosanna in person. Following this, she explains that she wants to talk about Polly, who has had several dangerous incidents with her children. But Rosanna worries about that Nanny and asks Caitlin if she's using drugs again. In a shocking revelation, Rosanna unintentionally reveals how she met her in a rehabilitation program when Polly used to live in a car and was abused by her boyfriend. Even worse, Polly had never even worked as a nanny, and Rosanna lied to help her. An angry Caitlin doesn't believe Polly's story about being abused is true. She accuses the old woman of lying and putting her children in danger before storming off. Meanwhile, Stewart seems to have discovered something crucial, so he leaves an urgent message for Caitlin to call him back. He also prints a newspaper article about a fire that killed three members of a family, though the daughter survived. Elsewhere, Caitlin returns home and explains to her husband that Polly has been lying to her and that the reference she gave them was also fake. However, Miguel seems frustrated by her erratic behavior and is annoyed that she decided to chase down a woman this late instead of feeding their hungry baby. Meanwhile, Stewart is visited by Polly and he claims he called her to apologize for what happened that afternoon. The two sit down for a conversation, and here Stewart reveals that he knows her real name is Rebecca and that she grew up in San Bernardino. It turns out Caitlin also grew up there and her real name is actually Jennifer. In a shocking twist, we learn that years ago, Polly's parents and her baby sister died when their house caught fire, which was started by none other than Caitlin. Stewart suggests that something must have happened to Caitlin to drive her to such a drastic act, but Polly refuses to believe it. She explains how her life was completely ruined because of Caitlin, who just changed her name and moved away after the incident. She asks if she has told Caitlin yet, but Stewart replies that he hasn't, as he wanted to speak to her first. At this moment, Polly requests to go to the bathroom and Stewart shows her the way. Soon after, he speaks to her from outside and tries to convince her to forgive Caitlin. But then all of a sudden, she begins collecting the evidence right when he wakes up and tries to call 911. Unfortunately, Polly notices this and begins savagely striking the poor guy until his face is completely mangled. Not long after that, Caitlin gets a call from Bethany that Stewart was attacked during a break in, so the panicked woman quickly rushes to the hospital. Upon her arrival, she meets a distraught Bethany and informs a police officer that Stewart had been investigating a suspicious nanny. She thinks that the nanny might be responsible, but the officer simply ignores her, saying he isn't the detective in charge. The next morning, when Caitlin returns home, she finds her family having breakfast with Polly and becomes enraged. She immediately demands that the nanny leave and rushes to her room to pack her things. Miguel tries to stop her, but Caitlin notices Polly hugging Emma, prompting her to attack the nanny, and here Caitlin accidentally hits Emma and causes her nose to bleed. Miguel and Polly rush to help Emma, while Caitlin is overwhelmed with guilt and breaks down in tears. In the next scene, Caitlin is seen in a hotel and speaking with her attorney, who tells her that she could get a restraining order against her children. It has been 1 week since the incident and Stuart has passed away, but Polly is still taking care of the kids. Later, Caitlin takes her pills but finally notices an erased number 34 on the medication. She quickly Googles it and is stunned to learn that it is actually a drug called methamphetamine, commonly used as an ADHD stimulant. Following this, Caitlin arrives to watch Emma's basketball game where she apologizes to her and explains that she's sometimes over controlling because no one looked out for her when she was a child. Emma also forgives her and shows her the printout of the fire article she stole from Polly's room. Upon seeing this, a stunned Caitlin realizes what's been happening and breaks down in tears. But Emma sees nothing wrong and suggests that since Polly is an orphan, that's why she tries too hard to be part of their family. Afterward, Caitlin returns home to meet Polly and calls her by her real name Rebecca. The two head to the kitchen for a conversation, while at the same time Miguel calls Caitlin multiple times but she doesn't answer. He worries that she went home to confront the nanny again, so he grabs his daughter and proceeds to leave. Meanwhile, at home, Caitlin apologizes for everything, and at this point, she reveals how Polly's dad used to abuse her. She explains that even though she told the school and the parents, no one believed her, but Polly calls her story bullshit. We then see a flashback of that tragic night, showing a terrified young Polly staring at her burnt house when she notices Caitlin running away from the scene. Polly accuses Caitlin of destroying her life and robbing her of a happy childhood, but Caitlin says that Polly already knows the horrifying truth about her dad because he abused her as well. She reveals that the evil man told her this, and he used to say the two girls looked so much alike that they could be sisters. Upon hearing all this, Polly breaks down in tears and she suddenly stabs Caitlin with a shard of broken glass. She says that she wants Caitlin to rot in hell while she sleeps with her husband and raises her daughters. Pauline even strikes her with a heavy pan, but Caitlin refuses to give up and fights back with all her strength. After an intense struggle, she finally hurls the evil nanny against a glass surface and she's knocked unconscious. Caitlin then grabs Josie from her crib and hurriedly leaves the house just as Polly begins to wake up. Following this, Caitlin and Josie try to drive away right when Polly suddenly appears and starts smashing the windshield with a hammer. Miguel and Emma also arrive, and then this happens. Rushes to help and apologizes to his wife for not believing her. Caitlin then hurries to check on dying Polly, whose arm is ripped upon and bleeding profusely. Eventually, she succumbs to her injuries while Caitlin is overwhelmed by guilt and breaks down in tears along with a distraught Emma. The scene then cuts to some time later where Caitlin is sitting alone and staring deeply into the flickering flames of a fire. Miguel then tells her that Emma knows everything and reassures her that they will be alright. Meanwhile, Emma is seen telling Josie the story of Rebecca, who lost her family, was forced to live in a foster home, and had to eat cans of tuna like a cat. She even mimics Polly's gestures, a chilling reminder that even though the nanny is gone, shadow still lingers in the world. And that's where the story leaves us. Reminder that sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones hiding the darkest secrets. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to smash that like button, drop a comment on what movie I should cover next, and subscribe to CineSnap for mind twisting stories every single week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next recap.